You're listening to Juicy Radio. I'm your host, Tony Bacigalupo, and in this episode, I'll be talking with Iris Kavanagh, who's the head of CoShare, the National Coworking Association, among many other things. You can learn more about Iris and how you can work with her at coworkingwithiris.com. In this episode, we'll be talking about the value of a coworking alliance, or at least building relationships with your area coworking spaces, why Iris is excited for Juicy Canada, which she'll be speaking at, and hearing some inspiring stories of some real community building, some impactful local community building. All this and more in this edition of Juicy Radio, Episode 7. Iris, thank you for taking the time to talk.
Absolutely.
Tell me, so do you want to just give me and potentially our listening public just a little bit of an update on where you're at and where you're going?
Thanks for asking. I'd love to. So I'm currently working as a consultant, helping coworking operators as well as coworking staff to develop their operations, their design, and their community. I also do some consulting on the HR side of things, not legal, but more specific to coworking and specific to training and building a team, both from, the sort of building blocks of a one-by-one person at a time building, but also in terms of building the community that is required for a team to function well. And in my belief system, that team community is, really kind of sets the tone and the vibe for the coworking community, for the members. Much like a family. In a family, the parents sort of set the tone and the value for the kids, and hopefully they can co-create that as the children kind of mature and really understand that. And hopefully the staff of a co-working space will also co-create. In addition to that, I have recently launched a YouTube chat show, which I will also be working into a podcast soon. And my goal with that is really to highlight the people that are out there in the co-working movement doing amazing things. I pretty much want to talk co-working all day long, and I get to do that when I have somebody come and interview with me. So it's a way to do that, and also a way to meet all the really wonderful people that are out there doing amazing things in their community. And in addition to that, I'm heading CoShare, which started about 3 years ago with the goal of being the National Coworking Association, sort of association for shared workspaces. We're changing what our focus is now as coworking, and the shared workspace movement is changing. We're really honing in on being more focused toward community-based spaces which really are about people, and helping them to connect with other community-based spaces and form more local networks.
So we launched an internship pilot this year, and we've been running it for about 5 months now. And our goal with this pilot program is to be able to do two things. One is to develop a program that could then be offered to our members. Interns are often a great way for a coworking space to have additional help, but internships can be fraught with problems. The first one being that I really don't think it's ever okay to ask anybody to volunteer their time unless they're getting something in return for it, like credit or money. And most interns have, they're saddled with college debt or something of the sort, and they really need to be able to feed themselves. And so having a good system put together whereby you can figure out how to provide somebody with either college credit if they're still in college, or how to figure out a small stipend to offer them on a monthly basis, I think is really valuable. And so what we've done is we've put together a program that can be offered through the local universities in the cities where co-working spaces are, as an actual intern program that can be accredited through the college, which is really a remarkable thing when you think about it. once again, in my belief system, co-working is going to become more and more prominent in more and more cities. And so to develop community managers and to develop the people who are able to work out of co-working spaces is a really wonderful opportunity for us to have, because as you and I know, in the past, we've sort of just fallen on this thing called co-working because out of a need, but not necessarily, we weren't necessarily trained for everything that came up, sort of on the operations and logistics side. Maybe also not on the community side in terms of being a good communicator when those tough questions arise and such. And then the other part that we will be offering is a trained workforce. So our hope is to be able to train interns, train them through local co-working spaces through this program, and then being able to have a workforce that's trained and ready to be placed, so that if somebody's looking to hire somebody in their city, they could start looking with people who are recommended to them through their network because they've already been an intern or, they've already done work in a co-working space. And so they know what job they're sort of getting into. And that's a need that I hear from clients a lot, is how do I find, the right fit, the right kind of person to do this job, which isn't really a tough job, but it's a really complex job of operating a space and managing a community. And so what we're offering is the ability to, have a trained person, perhaps not trained in your method of co-working or your particular model, but at least they're familiar with the concept. And so that first couple of months of getting them up to speed on what community means and what kind of a space you're operating is sort of taken care of, by the internship program that we're running. So those are the two things that we're doing through CoShare to reach out to people.
Great. And so if I wanted to find out more, I'd just go to CoShare.com?
Yes, CoShare.co.
CoShare.co. Isn't .co just the most co-working friendly TLD?
Isn't it wonderful? I was trying to tell my developer this the other day. He bought coworkingwithiris.com for me. And I said, thanks so much for doing that. It's wonderful that you did that. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I also want to own coworking.iris.co. For that reason, that's our industry standard. And he eventually believed me. So
I love it. So you, I believe, will be joining us in Montreal for GCUC Canada.
I'm so excited. Excited. Yes.
Tell me.
I'm really, really excited.
Why are you excited?
Well, I'm excited, because I've never been to Montreal. And I love Canada. I've only ever been to the western states of Canada. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see another format of GCUC. I'm really, really excited for a full day unconference, because for me, that's where the value is in going to conferences, are in the conversations that I have, the one-on-one or group conversations that I have with people. And so I know that I will learn a lot because there will be an unconference and I'll be able to participate in sessions where there's a lot of people talking about things that I'm fascinated about. I'm also excited, of course, to see friends that I haven't seen in a while. And I am excited to see Ashley do her thing and produce what she's producing. I'm excited to meet all of the new co-working people that I haven't met previously because they don't come to the US conference. And I'm just excited to spend 4 days surrounded by people who like to talk co-working as much as I do.
Well, that's enough reason right there for sure.
And co-living. Apparently, co-living is a big thing in the GCUC Canada. At least in the people who come to GCUC Canada, Ashley was telling me there's a lot of co-living people, and I'm really interested in co-living. So I'm excited to get to know more about the people who are doing that right now.
Awesome. Well, I must say, having been at GCUC Canada in Toronto last year, it was a real special treat. The curation of speakers, the whole event was just very tight and very fun. And there was never, typically in any conference I go to, there tends to be a stretch of time where I kind of feel tempted to go introvert and disappear for a while, you know? And I kept not being able to do that at last year's GC Canada because there kept being another thing that I just couldn't help but want to be a part of again. And so I'm excited for you to see it. I'm excited for a lot of other people to see it. Ashley does a terrific job as always. And, so what would you say to maybe somebody who hasn't been to one of these conferences before? Why should they go? Why should they spend their time and their money on this?
Oh, great question. So I think I could list 1,000 reasons on why you should go. I think the probably number one best reason is that you will make friends for life at GCUC. And you will learn things that you didn't know. Even if you've been operating your own co-working space for, several years, you will learn things that you didn't know. And you'll walk away from GCUC so excited to go back to your space and apply all of the ideas that you learned about and the different things, the different tricks and the different best practices that people shared. And you'll be so excited to see your members and just keep co-working and keep making things awesome in your space.
Well, I agree. That's great. And in terms of just in general, where things are going with co-working, why it's important, why it's not just office space, can you tell me a little bit in terms of your own personal motivations, like why this is personally important to you, why you've decided to dedicate yourself to this movement?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Tony. My backstory is that I grew up in community, and so I've really been steeped in it the majority of my life. I lived on not religious communes necessarily, but I lived on communes and communal land trusts and in co-living situations as a child and in my growing up years. My parents operated the local co-op along with all of the other co-op people. That was where we did our grocery shopping and so on and so forth. And so community has been a really big part of my life for a long time. When I understood what co-working was, it was one of those, it was like I found myself in a puzzle, and I was a puzzle piece that just naturally fit into that puzzle. And my first year of working in co-working, I remember waking up every day going, wait, am I really going to work again today to do this thing where I get to hang out with these amazing people all day and talk to them and help them do amazing things? So for me, it was just, there was kind of no looking back as soon as I took a dip into co-working. As an activist, or as a person with a past as an activist, I find that co-working is one of the best ways to create change in the world. I have countless stories over the past almost 8 years now of the lives that have been changed through co-working. My life has been changed for the better, but also the lives that have exponentially been changed through that one life, if I can get really kind of random right now. But, if you can imagine sort of the 100th monkey idea, when one person in a co-working space is able to launch their nonprofit or their socially responsible company or build the initiative in their company through the support of their fellow members, then they are then able to affect the lives of so many others in the world and in the community around them. And to me, that is just such a powerful thing. The other aspect that I feel like co-working, the other reason that I really like co-working and as an agent of change is that I feel like it's really a democratization of work. So let's imagine if Congress was co-working, right? They'd all be sitting, it might be kind of crazy, but they'd all be sitting in this big space, hopefully, and they might be working directly with their staffers and each other's staffers, and maybe policy writers, and maybe just random people like you and me. We could come in and co-work too. And so we'd have a chance to actually speak directly to our Congress people, who would have a chance to actually speak directly to their constituents and work together on ideas to solve problems. So I really see co-working as a way, as a model that can be applied to so many different types of challenges that we face in our society. And a great example that I'd love to just bring up is a space that's about 30 miles or 20 miles south of me, where I live, in a very agricultural-based community called Watsonville in California. And if you ever buy strawberries, they most likely come from Watsonville. There's a pretty high likelihood that you've eaten strawberries from Watsonville at some point in your life. And so Watsonville is filled with farms. It's surrounded by farms, and there's a lot of people who work in ag and tech there. There's also a lot of migrant farmers and a lot of very underprivileged people in Watsonville, and there's a very large Latino population there. So there was a man who was walking through the downtown area, and he noticed a young woman sitting on a laptop outside of the local community college campus, and she was sitting there working on her laptop while in front of the locked doors. And he asked her, why are you sitting out here? Well, I don't have internet access at home. And she was either applying for a job or building her resume online, really trying to, get herself out there into the work world. And that was sort of the impetus for this man to start a space, which has become a real amazing community gift. The space is called the Digital Nest, and they provide a free membership to members age 12 to 24. The membership comes with a laptop, and access to other equipment, plus training on how to use the laptop, how to use the other equipment, and then classes. It's funded by donors, someone like you or me donating, also some big foundations, as well as the National Science Foundation, have jumped on board to fund this space. And what's happening is these youth are getting the training and the skills that they need to work in the digital economy, and are now able to build websites for local businesses and do photo shoots and basically create digital products for the local agricultural businesses. And so the meeting between ag and tech, as well as between the social justice activism of helping underserved and underprivileged youth, is just a wonderful combination, in my opinion. And so I would love to see co-working applied in sort of this open source context across so many problems that we're currently facing in our society.
Wow. And how do we learn more about that project? Because that sounds just like such an inspiration.
Isn't it amazing? It's digitalnest.org.
Digitalnest.org.
Yes.
Awesome. Iris, what else is on your mind in the co-working world? You've been dealing with a lot of different kinds of co-working communities, and like you said, in different contexts, as a consultant and as the leader of an alliance. Are you noticing any trends or any interesting stories that are developing among the people that you're talking to?
Yeah, I think what I'm noticing as far as trends is amenities. A lot of really great amenities in spaces. I do live in the Silicon Valley area, and I co-work a lot in San Francisco. And there's definitely a race to get as many cool amenities and as many cool tech gadgets in a co-working space as possible. And while I'm in full support of giving members access to as many amenities as possible, and I really think that group buying power is a powerful thing for co-working spaces to embark on, what I would love to see is as strong a focus on the amenities and the cool physical space as the focus on community and really on relationship building, because community is a buzzword, as you and I know. But to me, what it comes down to is building one relationship at a time. And so if we can, if co-working spaces can really remind themselves and foster unique and individual relationships with each of their members and encourage those types of relationships to be fostered within their communities with each other, I think that we're going to see a much powerful force of co-working and a much powerful force of good than if our focus is only on the sort of physical space and what the amenities are that we offer. And so the trend that I'm seeing is both towards a little bit more commercialism. And this is coming from somebody who, yes, did work for a chain of co-working spaces. And at the same time, I think that there are a group of people who are really working on creating small local community co-working spaces. I like to call them neighborhood spaces, that they focus on community and they focus on developing real relationships with their members. And what gets them out of the bed in the morning, Tony, is the excitement of seeing who's got something going on that day and how can they best help their members help each other and help themselves to make each day awesome.
Beautifully put. And I think that that's something that we should all be aspiring to in whatever we do is, trying to foster that kind of humanness between people. We need more of that in the world. And as much of it as we can get, I think we'll be better off as a society. Yeah.
And, Tony, there's one other trend I wanted to bring up, and I'm just going to put this here and we can figure out how we're going to talk about it another time if you want. But I'm noticing that a lot of co-working spaces are taking on investors in order to open, in order to scale, in order to grow bigger. And I would love to have a conversation about what happens to a community when investors, or to the brand of the space, when an investor is not aligned with the mission of co-working. Because I think that's a problem for us. If we're looking to take money on so that we can build our dream, and we take money from the person who has a stake in our business now and is not aligned with our business, they're going to expect us to make decisions that we might not want to make for our community. So I think that's something I'd really like to discuss. Maybe I'll bring that up at the unconference at GCUC Canada.
Oh, that sounds like a terrific topic. I think, in general in business, if you bring on an investor, if you're going to go that route, then being very careful to ensure that investor's interests are aligned with yours in terms of the purpose of your organization it's going to determine whether in a number of years you're going to end up having a chance at building something really special, or that you're going to be recovering from something,
Yeah.
And I think 100% anybody who's listening to this, who's building a co-working space, be very careful with who you work with and how you structure that relationship. And I would say, and I imagine you'd agree, Iris, if you're going to build a co-working space that's going to be successful, then there are ways you can do it that will work. But there's no better way to build something that grows and scales and is able to compete in a competitive marketplace than to build it with an incredible soul and an incredible sense of purpose. Mm-hmm. So I would hope that a smart investor would understand that this isn't just about figuring out how to lease out space and make it look pretty and then sell it for a penny less than the WeWork across the street. Like, it's lame business, Mm-hmm. I think for those of us who are kind of familiar with this, we know that it can be a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I really think it's like a marriage, taking on an investor. And so really think about it. Would you marry somebody that you're not really sure that you want to spend, the rest of your life with, or at least the next 15 years, 20 years of your life with? And so really looking at that and getting clear on what your priorities are as a co-working owner and what your mission is and what your goals are. And your goals might be to make money. And if that's your goal, now hopefully every business can at least support its workers. But if your goal is to make a lot of money, well, co-working might not be right for you, but also make sure, that you're really aligned with the right person, because it is such a long-term decision. And like you said, you might find yourself years down the line looking at somebody who's just so different from you, and their goals are so different from the mission of the business, and that it causes you to make decisions that you might not otherwise have made.
I hear you on that, Iris, and I know that you have you're speaking from a place of knowing what that's like through experience. And I can say, coming from the bootstrapped side, that the bootstrap side ain't easy either. But I did always appreciate feeling like I never had to answer to someone else or compromise my values. And ultimately that, I think, didn't serve me in a sense, because I didn't have an accountability loop that, there were probably some times that I could have been a little less purist and a little bit of a smarter businessman, and that might have served my community. So I think ultimately, regardless of what structure you're in, you need to be able to have a supportive group of people around you who you've aligned with because of your shared belief in achieving what it is that you're setting out to achieve. I think that's probably the difference maker.
Yeah, so true, Tony. And as I'm bootstrapping my own business now, I'm really having mad respect for all of those who are able to do so, and it actually works, and it's sustainable. And I am not a business-minded person. I'm a good operations person, but in terms of, I don't have an MBA, and numbers are not my strong suit. I'm so much more of a people person. So I think there's definitely a balance somewhere in the middle, and hopefully we'll all begin to strike that soon.
Fair enough. Well, Iris, I appreciate you taking the time. It's been a terrific conversation, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in Montreal in, is it only 5-6 weeks now?
It is only 5-6 weeks now.
Oh boy, I have some flights to buy.
Yeah. Hey, I hear we're staying on the boat together.
Yes, that's right. That is right. Doug has put together a pretty cool package there, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, I'll be seeing a lot more of you then soon.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Tony.
Thanks again for taking the time, Iris.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks again for joining us here at Juicy Radio. Again, if you want to grab tickets for the Juicy Canada Conference, you can find out more about that at canada.juicy.co. Just head to juicy.co and you can find links to all of the upcoming Juicy conferences there. I'd love to hear from you. So if you have thoughts on this episode or Juicy Radio in general or co-working in general or just how you want to make the world a better place, shoot me an email. My email is tony@nwc.co, and you can find me at TonyBeGood on Twitter. So that's all for this episode of Juicy Radio. In the meantime, keep making the world a better place for everyone around you and keep being awesome.